Hey guys, my name's Jarrell. I wanted to do a very quick video on how to network and get yourself into places. This has just been through my experience, and you don't have to take it as gospel, but it's worked for me, and it's the type of information that I would have wanted somebody perhaps to tell me honestly and openly from the beginning. So just a bit of background information. I made a transition from the film industry, which is a very affluent industry, very cultural industry, into, and I mean cultural in the sense that there's a lot going on screen, uh, into the catering industry to become a pastry chef. How did I do that? Number one, I decided what I wanted to know. I wanted to know what it was like to be a chef, the rigor. I wanted to know, you know, how do you make a peanut parfait? Because I was at a closing film festival party one year, and the canapes that came in the room, one of the final dessert canapes that came into a room was a peanut parfait, and it blew my head off. I wanted to know how that was done. But I also wanted to get into that industry because I wanted a skill in my hands. If you got something like that to fall back on, then it couldn't do me any harm. Who had the knowledge? How did I find that out? That's point number two. How did I find that out? I found out who the catering company was as a result of being in that closing film festival party and getting a business card. It was just an opportunity of being in the right place at the right time. It's a lot of it is about timing, but there's no better timing in your life than your own mind. When your body and your mind is telling you that it wants to do something different, it's because perhaps you've exhausted everything that you've already got, and you're not, you're stagnant, you're not moving any further forward. Life is all about growth. So yeah, I wanted to know the traits of being a chef, and to know that I had to get around chefs. It's as simple as that. I contacted that catering company, and within a 3-week space roughly, I was working part-time, just trying to get some experience in the kitchen. Initially I asked them for some work experience, and that's what I went in there for, and I was kind of very humble with it. I just said, would there be an opportunity to do some work experience? And they put me in chef whites very quickly. Chef whites are what you wear in the kitchen if you're a chef. And I was hooked. I was immediately put into the pastry environment, which I knew I wanted to get into when I got to that catering company. And I decided to stick with it. I understand that's not necessarily, you know, I'm painting a picture like it was easy, because it wasn't. There were financial constraints, and I was in a full-time position in one place, and I had to cut down my time there in order to fulfill my time elsewhere. But if you're trying to make a change, when you're trying to make a transition, there's always a sacrificial period which will put you like on a, not a downward curve or spiral, but will temporarily, you'll be running at the bare minimum, and then things will start to flow if you decide to continue, and hopefully they'll flourish for you. So that was point number 4. I put a timer on my phone to tell myself I was going to talk for 3 minutes and 30 seconds. That didn't work. Number 4, connect. Who in that industry are you perhaps wanting to emulate? In the pastry industry, it's a small environment, but there are always people that, well, now, having been in that industry for nearly 2 years, there are plenty of people actually that I want to emulate. And I'm not talking about the rock and roll stars of MasterChef and things like that. I'm talking about particularly pastry for me. I wanted to know how they got into their industries. You will just find pastry chefs that when you first get into that environment, they will know things about the industry, they will know things about what it takes to be a chef, and you have to be extremely observant initially. You've got to talk less and observe more. You cannot be given an opportunity and squander it because you thought you knew everything about that industry, or you knew everything about that environment. The whole point of you trying to make a transition is to make change, and change requires patience, and patience will breed a growth inside you that you don't know is quite developing until you're able to look back at things in hindsight. So that's point number 5, is to ask for an opportunity. Often doors will be closed in your face. The phone calls that you'll make, you won't get through to anyone. The emails will perhaps bounce back, or you won't get a response. There are other tools in today's age that you don't really have an excuse as to how and why you're not connecting with people. I'm an advocate, not necessarily for Facebook, because I find it's skewed towards a more social and friendly environment, but you can use it to your advantage. But if you're talking professionally, then I think you're walking along the lines of LinkedIn, emails, and phone calls. I am a fan of phone calls. I know people hate in this industry to pick up the phone, or they're scared not only of the response they're going to get on the opposite side of the phone, but hearing themselves talk about something to somebody who they don't know. It's just a human being on the end of a line. They're going to give you a smidgen of information. You've got to be tenacious. If someone picks up the phone to you and you get through to someone's PA, you've got to ask more. Is so-and-so, can I speak to so-and-so? No, that person's not in. When will they be back? Is there a possibility that I might be able to hand my CV into that person directly, as opposed to having to speak to a PA? Where is that person usually? And I'm talking about pretty high profile people. I'm always trying to aspire to be like whoever's the top girl or guy in that industry. You know, do they write any kind of, in any trade publication or any magazines? Who do they write for? How did they come into that? You've got to do the research on the industry and who the key players are in their industry. You know, for example, in the fashion industry, if I wanted to be an editor, I'd assume I'd be looking up to people like Anna Wintour. Now, Anna Wintour is an extremely high-profile person, but she's just a human being like you and I. She breathes air and she drinks water and occasionally eats, because in that industry, that's what you do. You occasionally eat, right? You know, you've got to think, right, how do I connect with that person? What have they done in their career that I can start to do and practice now? They all started pretty much from nothing. I'm not saying everyone did. Most people do start from nothing in order to get to that, into, you know, certain industries. So, you know, I mean, I could go on and on, and this could be a half-an-hour video because I do feel like I've got a lot more to say. But those are like the key things. So, number 1, what do I want to know? Number 2, who has the knowledge? Number 3, what traits do they display, and how can I emulate that? Number 4, connect. You know, it's just about you going to that person or peoples or groups and just asking a few questions. You know, you've got to want it. No one can force you. And number 5 is to ask for an opportunity. Internships, work experience, jobs. If there are, then, you know, why wouldn't there be? What's changing in that industry? It might be that you're trying to, I could go on and on and on. It might be that you're trying to get into a job where, you know, it's so saturated, there's so many people in it, but there's actually something changing in the industry. There's a transition, there's a niche, a bubble opening up elsewhere, which you might be an early adopter for the information that's going on in that industry. There's a lot I could say. I hope I haven't bored you to death. I just feel I needed to get a lot of that out and perhaps to the public. So, my name's Jarrell. God bless you all, and I hope that helped you. Yeah, all the best. Bye.